Joining us today is somebody very special in the industry. It's kind of like the faceless hero in a way, I would say. It is the person behind the That News Life Instagram page.
Yes.
And if you know anything about news, I would say that's one of the first things. I mean, so many people follow this page, and it's like this almost safe space for like fellow journalists to go and just kind of be themselves. And that's awesome. They don't want to be identified, so we're going to call them TNL for That News Life. Joining us now, TNL. Hey, how are you?
Hi. Good morning. Nice to be here.
Good morning. Is it wherever you are? Were you affected by the crazy cold at all?
We were. We did have some weather here, so we definitely had some winter weather coverage on our end.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
The weather now is perfect, though.
Yeah, here in the Midwest. It's beautiful. Oh my goodness. So
I'm glad that's over with.
yeah, no joke. I have so many questions. First of all, are you I assume work in the industry yourself, correct?
I do, yes.
How long have you been in the industry? Roughly.
I've been in the industry for about 6 years. I've been at a few markets. So, yeah, I've been here for a while.
That's awesome. So, okay, let's talk about this page. So when did you start the page?
I started the page in 2018. It was just kind of an idea that I had in college. I didn't know a lot about local journalists. I mean, we learned about network journalists, but I wanted to see kind of what other markets were going through and what other journalists were going through, because what we were covering at a certain station in a certain state is not what another station is covering, and journalists there are doing something completely different. So I just kind of wanted to have like the day in the life of a journalist posted, and that's kind of how it started. Just something that I wish I had in college, and for a way to connect. You know, when people come close to their contract, they want to reach out to people in maybe that market that they want to go to, and you know, I think it just makes it a little less tough, or maybe makes it less nervous to just reach out to somebody via social media opposed to sending an email. So I wanted to create that space as well for people going to their next market.
That's awesome. And
so smart.
Yeah, and one thing that you do a lot of on the page, I've noticed, is job postings. That's genius. I mean, there's sometimes it's tough for, we don't mention our specific station on this show, but in our station that we work for, I mean, we have so many right now. And I believe you guys shared it. And I don't know if I need to ask, I meant to ask our boss if we got any applications out of it, but just that way to connect, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. I try to do those as much as possible. Anytime I get a message that there is a job available, I always post it. And then usually I'll say, if there's other postings, post below. And then frequently I'll just, have a square that says drop the job postings. And there's a lot of them. And then if you read the comments, a lot of people are texting with each other that maybe wouldn't have. And I think from what I've heard, it has helped some journalists land some jobs. And that is so fulfilling to me, because that is something that I didn't foresee the page doing, and now that it does that, it's a great feeling.
You could be a talent agent almost. I'm just realizing.
Yeah, I don't know if I have all the time to do that, because I do work in the news, but maybe one day. Yeah.
Okay. So I was going to ask you that. So we know how busy this industry is. Hannah works in. All three of us work in the industry. How do you manage that? I mean, I'm sure you get so many tags and posts and messages. How do you have time to manage that on top of we live in the digital age, so I'm sure your job also wants you posting on their platforms all the time as well. Like, dang, that's so much screen time, right?
Like all the time.
Yeah, and you're on top of it. What's your secret?
It is. So I wake up in the morning and I spend probably an hour doing that. So I'll either when people are laying in bed, kind of going on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or whatever, I'm working. So I'm on there probably an hour and a half straight. Maybe I'll get out of bed, drink some coffee, but I make it a point to do that every morning for an hour and a half. And yes, right, I get tagged in a lot of posts. It's crazy sometimes how many people will tag That News Life now. I started in 2 years ago, I had maybe 1,000 followers. But I pick at random. I try to pick people who have never been posted before. And so I'll post those. I will reply to any messages, and then I'll go to work. And then after work is when I work on the product and website. I'll tweak it a little bit. But I make it a point to do it every week. And then on my weekends, I definitely value my weekend. So that's why you see less activity on Instagram, because, I do want to have kind of a life. But, if things happen or if something goes wrong, I definitely fix it. But I try to have a weekend and spend some time off of the screens and be normal for a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know what I'm doing wrong in my life, but I'm always complaining I'm so busy. Oh my gosh, too much. You do all of this and so well, and then also take time for the weekends? What the heck? Dang. Are you a Martian or something? It doesn't add up to me. That's awesome, though. That's so cool.
I'm not a Martian.
Thank you for clarifying. Okay. So I didn't realize it was so new. So I think I told you this when we were messaging over the last few days, but I didn't know about your page until we decided to start the show. And in a much different format and platform, like we were kind of thinking the same thing when we were talking about this podcast. We're like, none of us have worked in the industry on the show for more than, maybe 5 years. And we're like, coming up through this experience, like we didn't, so similar to what you're saying. We're like, we don't really have these resources where people just kind of not necessarily talk about the product, but what the process is. And there's some shows, right. We've had episodes where I don't think we talk one time about actual news. We just talk about our lives kind of surrounding it more than anything. So that's so awesome. But I did not realize you only started in 2018. Wow.
Yeah, 2018, and it's definitely grown since then. We just did the Twitter, I think maybe 6 months ago, if less. And that's been great. That's a whole nother platform that people have been using. I don't think there is an Instagram that has more people verified following them because most journalists are verified. Right. But anytime I see like a good news story or something that I can see as a kicker for another market, I try to retweet it. Any good advice, anything funny, I try to retweet all of that. So Twitter is also a place that we, spend a lot of time on. So I try to make that accessible and useful for journalists as well.
That's awesome. I wonder if there's a way that we could find out for sure if your page literally has more verified followers than any other page. Cause that seems, I'm thinking about that. I'm like, that actually is plausible because even people with millions of followers, the majority of them are just
regular people.
Yeah. I don't want to say normal people, but people that don't have a verification or a public status. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow. Right. We'll have to circle back. I'll do a little digging and see if there's I don't know if there's an analytic website or something. I'm sure there is. Crazy. So how you, Hannah, tell me what you were telling me before we called her about the merchandise. So when did you start selling merch? Is that newer?
So I actually started that probably 3 years ago. I said, once I get 1,000 followers, I'm going to sell some stuff because I'm sure you've seen it. The shirt that says, don't act like a boss on your package or something of that nature.
Yeah.
Are you familiar? Yeah. Okay. So I sell stuff like that. And I was like, I want news stuff because I love things that are tailored to news. I want something that's very cute to wear, something that I would wear, something if I wanted to throw a blazer on it with some heels, I would have no problem wearing it. So that was kind of where it started. And when I got 1,000 followers, I released a few things and it changed. I mean, I sold maybe 4 things and it was super depressing. And I said, okay, maybe this isn't for me. So then I took it down. The quality wasn't good. I was going through a different company.
Interesting.
And then after a few months, a few years, once the pandemic hit and I had, more free time because you couldn't do anything, I was like, I'm just going to give it a shot again. I want to wear stuff. There's things I have in my head. I have a whole list full of things in my notes in my phone, just pages of stuff that I see and I wanted to create. And so I thought I'm going to do it again. So I created it and, people started buying it, and then people started wearing it, and then people started taking pictures of it and tagging, and it was insane. And I cried. And I kid you not, when I first released it, I would say every day when I got an order, I cried. Every time I got an order, I would dance.
So sweet.
I would do some really awkward dance, but I would every day I would cry because it was just unbelievable. And it wasn't anything unattainable or crazy to think, maybe 4 orders a day, but it was just, it was unbelievable because I have worked so hard, and people think it's easy and it's the Instagram. I have worked very hard to grow the Instagram and to grow the community and to have it be a safe place, or a safe space if you say it. And then to have people actually wanting to promote that and support it financially and wear those things, it was incredible to me. And so it's been an amazing experience, and I love every moment of it.
So I'll say this. I feel like you have found, merchandise that's such a niche item that, I had never seen stuff like this before. My favorite one, which me and Eli were talking about, I was showing it to my boyfriend last night, the one that's the media and then crossed out journalist. It's almost like you're making journalists more confident, more proud to be journalists, that we're not the bad guy. We're not the enemy, like you say in so much of your stuff. And I think it's so nice in the world that we live in right now, where it seems like there is a lot of people against us. You're giving people a brand to feel confident and feel proud of their job that they're doing.
Thank you.
I love
2020 was. Thank you. And that's a great point you made. I mean, when I released this stuff a few years ago, it was just kind of, here's some cute stuff. I wear it. Maybe you'll like to wear it. But now it's kind of like we're defending our passion. And, for a lot of us, for myself especially, journalism is not just my job. It's not what I clock in to do. It's who I am. If I watch something, if I see something, the journalist in me just comes out of it. Or out of me. And, I found myself at dinners or conversations with relatives kind of having to defend why I love my job, because they, see us as the media and the enemy. And it's not like that. And the way they think our job works, and the way to think that we sit down and we see a story, we're like, okay, how can we completely change this and make America or wherever completely upset about this? Like, they genuinely think we do that.
Yeah.
And especially in 2020, I'm so proud to be a journalist, and I wanted to make things that portrayed that. And I know there's a lot of journalists out there that feel the same, and that's one of our best sellers. And I can completely understand that. I'm sure you can too. But yeah, I had a lot of people buy it, wear it to Christmas dinner or Thanksgiving dinner or whatever, and it's great. It's great.
It's really sweet. It's like you're helping. I know that you might just think you're a small part of it, but you're helping change the narrative where it's not just the media. It's all of these journalists that are standing together and say, like, we are so passionate about storytelling and making sure that the public get the news. And I also wanted to talk about meteorologists. They're not just weather girls. I don't want to not include them, because I like those ones too. I think that that's so cool, because you're not just a weather girl. You're not just a weather guy. You're a meteorologist.
Right.
I would say female meteorologists, in my experience, probably get the worst.
The most flack, I would say.
Of each. I mean, oh my goodness, because that's like science, right? So I don't know if it's that these viewers feel like threatened by a female figure telling them science. I don't know, but like in my experience, that's been a problem. So I love those shirts.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't do that math.
I couldn't either.
That degree.
No way.
I looked at being a meteorologist. I was like, oh wait, no way, can't do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Numbers, what?
It's so much work, and they're all so freaking smart and so passionate about what they do, and it makes me sad, obviously, when people take them for granted and they're just like, oh, well, weather girl. Yeah. Like, no, it's so much more than that.
Yeah. Well, and people like we have the weather in our pockets all the time, right? Apple weather or whatever, the forecast, any app. But what people don't realize is, like, both on a national and local level, people have to input those forecasts, right? Like, that's not a computer.
Numbers, right.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Oh man, that's awesome. So Hannah, this is kind of funny. She's probably going to be mad that I'm bringing this up, but when we were in between, when we were in the break, right before we called you, she like just had this look on her face all of a sudden. And I was like, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? And she was like, I was stalking somebody on That News Life page, and I accidentally liked a photo from how long ago? Like a year or something?
It was like definitely 2019.
Oh
so like
my goodness.
I go to that News Live. Like I go to the Instagram page to find a lot of outfit inspiration too. I don't know if you've heard anybody doing that, but like God, these girls
100%.
are on fire. And I was like, you guys look amazing. And I'm like, so I'll go and check out some of their pages, especially if they're like around our area. I'm like, this is so cool. It's a good way to connect and network, like you were saying earlier, for the future. So yeah, I find a lot of people on there, and I was creeping on this girl from I think she's in Tulsa. I think she's in Tulsa, which I'm from Oklahoma. So, I know Tulsa, so she's
still
from
weird.
Tulsa. And I was like looking through her. It's
Whoops.
sad.
Oh,
It's sad.
That
I'm
double tap,
embarrassed.
man. Her face is red right now.
Oh no.
Oh man. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking about your brand. But while we still have you, we're gonna. So one thing that kind of is important to us is also in a lot of ways keeping it light. Like we have so much heaviness and so much hatred in a lot of ways, like especially in the show too. We try to just have fun and be ourselves, and so we play a game during every show, almost. And if you don't mind, which I know you don't because I already asked you, but it's gonna be you versus Hannah. We're gonna play Name That News Anchor, famous news anchor. Which, by the way, TNL last night we were messaging and she was like, yeah, sure. No problem. I'm going to suck though. And I was like, oh, don't worry. We will. It's like, we will too. And then Hannah gets into the studio and I told her she saw the rundown and she's like, oh, I'm going to suck at this. So it works out.
We
my
can
point.
suck together.
So bad at this. Okay.
We are, and it's famous people. So I'm just going to play clips. We'll take turns. It'll make sense in a second. But here is Name That News Anchor.